In a remote African village, where the sun painted the lands with his golden rays, there lived a young girl named Sintiku. Sintiku lived in a mud house with her parents, who had only two children. The two children were a boy and a girl. The girl was Sintiku and the boy was Casio. Sintiku was the elder of the two, and her parents had great hopes of giving her out to a wealthy man in marriage because she was beautiful. She was just 15 years old, and her family faced the daily challenges of poverty and hardship. Her parents made her to feel she was beautiful, and her beauty would fetch her a rich man that will elevate their poor family conditions. And so she grew up with the feeling of getting married one day to elevate her family financial status. Every morning, Sintiko will wake up before dawn to fetch water from the distant well. With her calabash balanced on her head, she walked barefoot, her small feet leaving imprints in the red earth. As she carried the heavy load on her head, she imagined herself carrying the hopes and dreams of her entire family. In that village, there was nothing like education. One day, a philanthropic organization visited a neighboring village. They were surprised at the lack of education in that village and decided to camp there for a year to try to educate the people a bit. And if all was okay, they would go and come back again with plans to rebuild the village, to be a school, to build a village in the school. One evening, while Sintiku and her family were relaxing, her father told them about the 1 year training at the new training center in the next village. They were all surprised. And so these little children who were anxious, they wanting to know everything, decided the next morning by themselves, the two of them, Sintiku and her brother, to trek down to the next village, which was 10 miles away, to actually see what their father was talking about without their parents' knowledge. The village was very far, but Sintiku and her brother Cassio were able to get there after much trekking and running on the way. Sintiku and Cassio were welcomed there and they sat down to listen to what the teachers were teaching. They were given snacks for lunch, and by the time the two of them got back home, it was already getting dark. Their worried parents were happy to see them return home, but forbade them from going back there again. It was too far and unsafe for two little children to be moving at that time. Cassio obeyed and refused to go to the school anymore for fear of being beaten by their parents and the fear of the lonely and long road. But Sintiku went the next day alone, trekking the distance. She made sure to get back home before her parents returned home from the farm. But one day, Sintiku ran out of luck. Her mother had already gotten home before she came back. She was heavily beaten. She was beaten. Her parents were, "What? How can you, a girl, walk alone on that road?" She was beaten. And from that day onward, her parents decided to give her out to any man from the village who came forward to marry her before she got astray. They would not risk that. That was their only hope. How can a girl as young as Sintiku be going 10 miles away from home every day alone along that road because she wants to learn how to read and write? Asked her father incredulously. What if something bad happens to her on the way? That's just it. Her mother chipped in, and she doesn't want to understand. Despite all the threats and disciplinary actions taken on Sintiku, she refused to stop going to the school. That made her parents to conclude that it was better she got married as early as possible. Because if she got married, she would not be able to leave her husband's house to go to the school. The following week, They did not bother to disturb Sintiku at all from going to school. They allow her to be going. But whenever she left, they would commence the arrangement for her to get married. While she was gone, her dowry was paid and the marriage was conducted in her absence by her parents. She will be forcefully taken to her husband's house in 2 weeks' time. Meanwhile, Sintiku was busy studying very hard. She could not read and write under 1 year, and the organization was very pleased with her performances. They were about to leave the village and go back to the city where they came from. Certificates will be issued to all participants, and Sintiku was one of them. They were going to issue the certificate a day to the day of their leaving, and so they were all arranging it. While all those arrangements were going on, Sintiku's family were busy planning their own. On the day the certificate was being issued, the family took Sintiku forcefully to her husband's house. And Sintiku was surprised. Despite all her pleas, all her tears, all her crying of sadness, begging her parents that she wants to go to school to become somebody to help them, instead of a man being burdened with their poverty. But they refused to heed. They had married her off to a man of 32 years old who was a little bit well off but not rich as they had wanted, just to stop her from going to school. Sintiku refused to talk to anyone in the house they took her to. The man, Ekele, tried to pet her, but she would not listen and kept mute, sobbing throughout that night. The organization had, meanwhile, finished issuing the certificate without Sintiku being there. And they were all sad because she was the brightest of all. And they had wanted to give her gifts to honor her for her, for the time, the pain, the distance she had taken to be coming to take the course. But that night, while Sintiku slept after much thought on what to do with herself and the new husband they are saddling her with, Ekele came to lie down beside her on the bed. While he was lying down, he stretched out his hand to hold Sintiku. Instantly, Sintiku jumped out of the bed and started to warn him never to touch her again. But the already steaming Ekele grabbed her and made sure he did what a man would do to a newly married wife on that night. Sintiku lost her virginity and she was in pain. He clasped his hands over Sintiku's mouth, muffling her cries to make sure that no one heard her crying. Sintiku then thought she was going to die. When it was true, he fell on the bed and dozed off immediately. Sintiku, in pain and cries, stood up. She was sobbing hysterically. She cleaned herself up and quietly let herself out through the back door. She was ready to face any situation outside there in the world rather than live with this type of man. She had nowhere to go. Not even her parents' home was she welcomed anymore. And so she was ready to die along the road alone rather than live such a life with that man, Ekele, called her husband. Suddenly, a thought came into her mind. The organization that had taught them might be helpful to her and they will be leaving in the morning. Why not she followed them to anywhere the wind blew? She thought quickly and quietly made up her mind to walk towards that village. In pain, Sintiku hurriedly walked towards the village 10 miles away, where the school was. The head of the organization, they were shocked to see Sintiku's disheveled appearance at that time of the day. They took her inside and there they gave her a warm bath and a hot meal while she told them what had happened and that was why she had not come to take the certificate. She begged the man and leader of the philanthropic organization to take her with them to the city because she was ready to learn. Finally, it was agreed that she will follow them to the city. The next day, they left the village for the city with Sintiku. In the city, the organization offered Sintiku a scholarship to study, but all did not go as Sintiku had expected. After a month, it was discovered that Sintiku was pregnant, a child of 16 years now, without knowing how to take care of herself being pregnant. What a problem. Hmm. She was sick always and uncomfortable, but she was determined to follow her passion for education. The management of the organization, they were surprised, but they pulled Sintiku through by supporting her all the way to make sure she achieved her dreams of becoming a professional teacher that she had always wanted to be. She had plans to return home one day to establish her school if they would accept her. Tears welled up many times in Sintiku's eyes as she thought with deep feeling of her once harmonious family, and she cried a lot. She bid farewell in her heart to her loved ones and embarked on a new chapter. The city dazzled her with its towering buildings and bustling streets, but amidst the glamour, she carried the memories of her humble village, the laughter of her friends, and the love of her family, and which her family had once had. She left everything, determined to live a life of education and making it. So years passed and time flew by. Sintiku blossomed into a remarkable young woman of 34. Her baby was now a young girl of 18, armed with knowledge and her heart filled with compassion. Sintiku returned home with her daughter, determined to bring change to the community, and especially to guests like her who had suffered from early marriage. On arriving home, she went straight to her parents' home. They were now quite old. Her younger brother was now married with 5 children. She began to cry because everything had changed. Poverty everywhere. Sintiku was now very wealthy with her car and lovely, beautiful daughter. Sintiku. Sintiku was reverberating everywhere. She built schools, provided clean water, and empowered the community with opportunities they could only dream of before. When she told her family her daughter was the result of the first night with Ekele, they were shocked. Ekele came to see them, and he was happy he had a daughter from the prosperous, fine lady who had brought all the good things to the community. He was now married with 7 children. That would have been the life that Sintiku would have been living by now. Sintiku thought. So I would have deprived this girl from acquiring all these things she has brought back home now, Ekele thought. Sintiku's story reverberated across the continent, inspiring countless young girls to break free from chains of lack of education, to strive for a better future by embracing what Sintiku had brought back to them. Sintiku became a symbol of resilience, reminding everyone that dreams can be achieved against all odds. That's the end of the story. Please like, subscribe, and share the video to family and friends. Thanks for watching.